Great things are well with each of you as you rise into this new day. I'm excited. Today is Sunday, the 14th of November. We are moving right through this month. We're going to get ready to get started this morning. I want to welcome all of you who have joined this morning via the Zoom room. Those of you who are in the Zoom room this morning, I say good morning to you. Hopefully you shared the links to others that they may join. If you're joining this morning from our YouTube channel, good morning to you also. Now, we are here every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, and it's about a 30-minute presentation, a great way to start your week. For those of you who don't know, I am Asar, also known as Greg Stanton. I'm the facilitator for this morning's conversation. Here at Oasis Spiritual Center for Divine Living, we are here to serve and with the express purpose of moving you from being mere human beings to expressing as divine spiritual beings. If you are joining us on the YouTube channel this morning, go ahead and hit subscribe. That way, in the future, you will be notified when we go live with a presentation such as this. And throughout the week, occasionally I will drop in with a message for you. If you're on the Zoom room this morning, we welcome you again. And I pray that you are finding that this opportunity to engage me in this way is being fruitful. So we're going to go ahead and get started. For the sake of time and to respect yours, I want to say good morning. I pray that you rise with the realization that you made it. Yes, you made it. And there is gratitude be found simply in knowing that you have made it. So that's something to be grateful for this morning. So let us start by recapitulating. Last week in session 1, I introduced gratitude as a spiritual practice. So this month, I'm kind of focusing on gratitude, and what a way to end to go out of the year. As we end the month of November, we will be positioned to have taken on spiritual gratitude as a spiritual practice. Now, what do I mean by gratitude as a spiritual practice? Here at Oasis Spiritual Center for Divine Living, we have 7 distinctives that we follow, one for each day. And on Mondays, it is the attitude of gratitude. And that is to always, at all times, show appreciation, recognizing that all things and experiences have value to us. Yes, every experience that we have value to us because our experiences come from our experience. That is, what we are cultivating inside ultimately manifests on the outside. And if something is showing up that you really don't appreciate, something you want to extinguish, don't be so quick to extinguish it. Don't be so quick to move from it, but realize that you've created it and realize that is not what you want to experience and that it came from the inside to the outside. And all you have to do is re-script it, that is, go inside and make sure you pull those weeds that are showing up in your life in a way that you don't want to have them to show up. Therefore, we daily affirm that there are good things in the world, gifts and benefits that we've received. So that should be a practice, not only on Monday, but every day. We recognize and acknowledge that the source of all things, first, are inside of us, and secondly, materialize as matter outside of ourselves. We give thanks for being in position to receive as well as to exercise the power. Now, notice that to exercise the power to give. Come on now. So not only are we receptors, but we are also givers. Now, last week, we talked about 3 essential components of gratitude. And so I want to just track over them so that way I can bring those of you who are new to the conversation forward and present with us. So the 3 things that we kind of essential components that we said that was necessary for gratitude is recognition, acknowledgement, and appreciation. Recognition, acknowledgement, and appreciation are 3 essential components of gratitude. Now, there was a hidden nugget last week that I exposed. If you write the word gratitude down, you'll see inside of gratitude is an attitude. So attitude is everything. How you deal with life how your attitude, how when things begin to transpire in your life that are less than perfect, or when what you're looking for, waiting for, has yet to show up, do you keep the right attitude? Your attitude determines your altitude. That is, if you want to go high in life and you want to rise above situations, you got to take on the right attitude. Again, your attitude dictates or determines your altitude. So the first one we looked at was recognition. We said the first step is things to recognize that things are always working out for me. Even when they don't appear to be working out for me, things are in fact working out for me. And that scripture that we anchored that statement to was Romans 8:28. We know that in all things, God, in all things, it says in Romans 8, and we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. So all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord, or appreciate the universal principles, and are called according to its purpose, or are called according to your purpose. Knowing your soul purpose or soul path, your why of life, helps you to be more appreciative to the fact that when situations and circumstances arise in our lives, that they always work to your betterment. The second point we covered last week was acknowledgement. That is, we acknowledge relationships. We talked about my Father who art in heaven. That is our consciousness, our oneness with God. Matthew 6, chapter 6, verses 9 through 13. After this manner, when you pray, he says, our Father, establishing, acknowledging the oneness of being. I and the Father are one. And then the third thing we dealt with on last week was appreciation. That is recognition and enjoyment of the good qualities of something or someone. So appreciation comes from the recognition of an enjoyment of good quality. So I won't even expand that. I can have an appreciation for someone who don't have good qualities that I've bumped up against. It helps me to see the contrast, to have a greater appreciation for those things, those individuals who are favorable in my life. And so I always find appreciation in every relationship. The anchor scripture was 1 Thessalonians 5:18. In everything, give thanks. In everything, give thanks, for this is the will of God. And then we talked about last week on whatever state you're in, you find contentment. That doesn't mean to become complacent. So that was last week's message. And so this week, we're going to be dealing with the message that's entitled, Trust Evokes a Consciousness of Gratitude. Trust evokes a consciousness of gratitude. Okay, so that's the message this morning. Why is this important? Well, I have as a spiritual life coach, I've observed so many things. I'm in conversations real time with real people who are on a spiritual journey, spiritual pathway, and I observed quite a few things. And one of the things that I've observed as a spiritual coach, that so many people are going it alone. That is, they do not even recognize that there's a power greater than them, that is external to them, a power greater than them that surrounds them, a power that's greater than them that truly resides inside of them, and they don't know that they can use it. And so as here at Oasis Spiritual Center for Divine Living, that is one of the things we really try to nail you with, that you are more powerful than you realize, that you are not going it alone, but you can choose to go it alone. You know, if you want to go, when you want to get somewhere fast, go it alone, but you're going to have a lot of stumbling along the way. But if you want to get there and stay, go with someone, and no better person to take with you than God or Source. So that's key. So I want you to know, because you are going at it alone, you're not acknowledging that there's a power greater than you that's available to you, that's working through you. You're having so many unfulfilling experiences that you struggle with gratitude. What do you mean you struggle with gratitude? You may find it difficult to find something to be grateful for. I was talking to a client this weekend. She just could not find anything to be grateful for. She had lost a few loved ones this year. She had been let go from her job. She found out that she was pregnant. All these things that, even though she should find gratitude in being able to bring or be the conduit through which another life comes, it just threw her plan off. And so she's having a hard time finding things to be grateful for. So the goal of this session, what I want to accomplish this morning with you, 4 things. First, I want you to take on gratitude as a spiritual practice. If you haven't decided to do so, I hope that by the conclusion of this morning's message, or if you're listening to this at some later date, which will be today, that you're considering that maybe gratitude is a spiritual practice that I'm missing. And see, the word tells us to count our blessings. And many times gratitude is just that, counting the blessings. It could be a blessing that you made it. You maybe didn't win the race, but you made it. The second thing I want you to come away with this morning is understand how trust evokes a consciousness of gratitude. How your level of trust will determine your level of gratitude, or your awareness of things to be grateful for, your gratitude. So trust is essential. We're going to deal with that primarily this morning. Thirdly, I want to share with you a powerful story regarding trust. It happens to be one of my favorite stories, and I'm going to share with you this morning. And lastly, I want you to assess your life for where your trust lies. I want you to walk away this morning knowing, well, I could trust a little more in myself. I can trust in God. You can't trust in God if you don't trust yourself, because God manifests, source manifests through you as you. Now, our key scripture today, I'd like to give you a key scripture. That's the 37th division of Psalms, verse 3 through 8. It says, trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture. Delight yourself in the laws of the universe, and they will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your ways to these universal principles. Trust in them, and he will do this. Trust in them, and they will do this. They will make your way righteous, shine like the dawn, the justice of your cause like noonday sun. Be still before the universal principles, or the Lord, and wait patiently for them. Let them come to maturity in you. Do not fret when man succeed in their ways, when it appears that somebody has done something and got the goal before you. Don't fret when they carry out their wicked schemes. People are going to cross your path with wicked schemes. Matter of fact, you are going to be made privy to the schemes before they even play out. And just know that their wicked schemes will not come to fruition. So that's Psalms 37, 3 through 8. And I give it to you in an abridged version. So if you've been reading it in the King James Version, you've been reading it in the NIV, consider rewording it, rewriting it, and change it. Everywhere you see the word law, change it to universal principles, or the word Lord, change it to law, or change it to universal principles, and see how that whole scripture opens up for you. So we're going to talk about trust this morning. Let me start with a working definition. Before we do that, I would say good morning. If you're doing well out there, just go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And if you're in a Zoom room and you're doing well, give me a number, 1 to 10. Let me know where you're at. If you give me a 10, I know you're doing exceedingly abundantly above. You're really killing life, and it's going well. That's not a good way to put it. But if you're doing really well, give me a number so I can kind of see who's where out there. And if you're at a 5, let me know. Maybe you will get a conversation a little later with me. But I hope everyone is at least at a 7 and working towards an 8. And if you're on Facebook this morning, or not Facebook, if you're on the YouTube channel this morning, go ahead and type in there what number are you? I can see your numbers. Hey, good to see you, Felicity, Teresa, good to see you over there in the Zoom room. And for those of you who are on the YouTube channel, I want to say good morning to you. So now let's move. So it looks like everybody's doing well. I see some 7s, I see some 8s. Awesome. So let me ask you, what one thing could you do today to move it from the 7 to the 8, or from the 8 to the 9? Kind of try to think about that and come up with some things as we go through this morning's teaching. So let's talk about trust. The word trust means a firm belief in the reliability, the truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. Let me say that again. Trust is the firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. As children, we trust in our parents because many times our parents are able to put us in a situation of safety. So there's trust. We trust our parents because they supply our every needs. We have 4 hots and a cot. That is, we have food on the table. We have a place to lay our heads in the evening. So we have trust. And as we grow in relationship with our parents, we learn to trust them more because what they're able to do for us. Then we come to a point as we grow in life, we understand that our parents, our earthly, our natural parents, they might want to do things, but they don't always have the ability to do those things. So as we mature in life, we learn some things from our earthly parents, and then we begin to transition to trusting in our heavenly Father. Trusting in source, trusting in God. And we're going to talk about that. So when we talk about trust, we're talking about 1, acceptance of truth of a statement without evidence or investigation. Some things we trust, like many people follow Christianity, trusting that it is the pathway. Matter of fact, the truth be told, whatever spiritual path someone is following today, they are doing it with a level of trust or acceptance that it's a truth, and they have not began to unpack it to determine, is it a belief or is it truth? Many times we hold beliefs to be true, but everything we believe isn't necessarily true. And now that's one thing about Oasis Spiritual Center for Divine Living. We lead an expanded conversation. We leave space for what we think we know to grow, to expand. So one thing about trust is the acceptance of truth of a statement without evidence. That's what we often call faith, but faith is not without evidence. Faith is always with evidence. When I speak from the supernatural to the natural, knowing that I shall decree a thing and it shall be that thing, then it's based on evidence, not natural evidence, but the evidence of knowing that when my word is my wand, what I speak manifests in my life. So you have to know this, that even though it is not seen, it is germinating inside the realm of the unseen, where all these essential ingredients that are necessary are coming together, and ultimately at some point in time will show up in the natural realm. Now, the second thing about trust is the state of being responsible for someone or something. When someone puts a man in a position of trust, example, as a supervisor at this second job I've taken on, they trust me. They trust that I will lead. They trust that I will make sure that those who are working on my tour are safe. So they put me in a position of trust. People put you in a position of trust. If, as a parent, your children trust you. On the job, you're put in positions of trust. The third thing about trust, literally, a person or duty for which one has responsibility. Example, you may be the executor of a trust, or there's been a trust left to you or to the family. So trust is a very key component of gratitude, because we often give thank you or gratitude after the fact because someone has done something favorable for us, and we kind of trust them. We trust that they have our best interest in mind. So let me share with you a story this morning, a very powerful story. I want to ask right now, press 1 if you know who Obed-Edom. Obed-Edom. If you already know who Obed-Edom is, press 1. If you don't know who Obed-Edom is, put a 0 out there. So I kind of can gauge who knows who I'm talking about already. Obed-Edom. I want to know if you know who this person was. All right, I like that. The growth starts with a baseline, and it's most people are not growing because they think they know. And I'm glad to see this morning that many of you who have joined into me have been honest enough or have been willing enough to participate. Now, some people will join in with us and they don't participate, but you won't get that magic moment, that aha moment in these teachings if you're just an observer. So you participate. So look in here, it looks like most people, the vast majority, and right now, it looks like everyone has no clue of who Obed-Edom is. Now, I'm going to share with you this morning who Obed-Edom. And because you don't know who Obed-Edom is, I want to start with the story of the ark, and that's found in 2 Samuel chapter 6, where David is attempting to bring the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem. Now, let me share, and as I share this set of scriptures with you, don't drop off. It's 2 Samuel chapter 6, and I'm just going to read verses 1 through 11. David again brought together all the able young men of Israel, approximately 30,000. He and all his men went to Baalah in Judah to bring up the ark of God, which is called by the name of the Lord Almighty, who is enthroned between the cherub of the ark. They set the ark of God on a new cart and brought it from the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill. So the ark of the covenant up until this point was at the house of Abinadab, which was on a hill. Uzzah, U-Z-Z-A-H, Uzzah, and Ahio, sons of Abinadab, were guiding the new cart. So they had the Ark of the Covenant on the new cart, and they were guiding it. Now, there's some rich stuff in this story, and so I'm going to unpack that for you as we move through here. And Uzzah and Ahio, sons of Abinadab, were guiding the cart with the Ark of the God on it. And Ahio was walking in front of it. David and Israel were celebrating with all their might before the Lord, with castanets, harps, lyres, cymbals, sistrums, cymbals. When they came to the threshing floor of Nakan, Uzzah reached out and took hold of the ark of God because the oxen stumbled. The Lord's anger, or the universal principles, angered or burned against Uzzah because his irreverent act. Therefore, God struck him down and he died there beside the ark of God. Then David was angry because the Lord's wrath had broken out against Uzzah. And this place is called Perez Uzzah. David was afraid of the Lord that day. And he said, how can the ark of the Lord ever come to me? He was not willing to take the ark of the Lord to be with him in the city of David. Instead, he took it to the house. Here's that gentleman, Obed-Edom, the Gittite. He took the ark to the house of Obed-Edom, the Gittite. The ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed-Edom, the Gittite, for 3 months. And the Lord blessed him and his entire house. Now, King David was told that the Lord has blessed the house of Obed-Edom and everything he has because of the ark of God. So David went to bring up the ark of God from the house of Obed-Edom to the city of David with rejoicing. When those who were carrying the ark of the Lord had taken 6 steps, he sacrificed a bull and a fattened calf. Wearing a linen ephod, David was dancing before the Lord with all his might, while he and all the Israels were bringing the ark of the Lord with shouts and sounds of trumpets. Now, here, let me share it with you. This is one of my favorite stories because there's some principles to be unpacked inside this story. So the story starts out with David attempting to bring the ark from Abinadab's house to the city that he has built. Because he knew where God was, power was. And so he was bringing it in. And as he was bringing it in, the cart began to rock, roll, and Uzzah reached out to touch it and was electrocuted, or he was struck dead. And so David was like, that was just wrong, absolutely wrong, that this man who was attempting to keep the ark of God from falling over reached out to touch it, and as a result, he was killed. So David said, you know what? Enough of this. I'm gonna leave this right here. He left it at Obed-Edom's house. Now, let's look at Obed-Edom before I go back to David. It says that for 3 months, this man had this ark in his garage or in his house. Okay, he was not a he was a Gittite. He was not a Hebrew Israelite. He was not a follower after David's God in essence. But because the presence of God was in that ark, wherever the presence of God was, the blessing was. It says because, now here's what I want you to know when we look at Obed-Edom. Because the ark rested in the house of Obed-Edom, great blessings were poured out on all that dwelt therein. This proves that working with the divine laws always brings good. The word said it rains on the good as well as the bad. If the good and the bad know how to acknowledge and live with inside of the universal principles, you get the outcome. Now, it's interesting. For 3 months, this man's house was blessed. Where was the ark? It was in his house. You are the house. The ark of God must rest in you. Now, this is important because I want you to see that where God is, blessings is. Where God is, wholeness is. Where God is, or the Spirit of God, or the essence of God, or the divine intelligence, where in divine intelligence resides, there is nothing but blessings. Now, this is interesting. If you understand the metaphysical principle that's being taught here, in the natural, it's talking about Obed-Edom's house. All that was in his house was blessed. In the spirit, in the metaphysical teachings of this message, you are the house. You're not the house that's built with hands. You're the house that was designed by God, source, divine intelligence, to be that resting place where it can dwell. And so earlier in this message, I told you that it is important that you understand that where you are, God is, and where God is, you are. Where you are, source is, and where source is, you are. That makes you a sorcerer. You are an outsourcer. What do I mean by that? You are able to outsource what is the resource that is in you. Greater is he that is in me. That isn't that a scripture? Greater is it that is in me than the me, the physical me that is in the world. There's something greater than people in me that people can't see. They can see me and then they will define me in my limited nature as a man. But if they really knew who I was, they will know that this is just a container and that the same power that dwells in me dwells in them. And if we are acknowledging that this power dwells in us, just as Obed-Edom was able to be blessed for the 3 months that the ark was in his house, when you acknowledge that the power of God, that the essence of God, a spark of God is in you, then you can trust and believe that you will have blessings manifesting in your life. Now, let's back. David had a good intention, and many of you have good intentions. The word tells us many of the are the plans of man, but the end thereof is destruction. David had a plan to get the ark of God to the house that he has built. But here was the problem. David did not know how to get the ark to. You don't just bring it. And see, so many of us inside of Christendom are having these experiences because we are not aware of the principles that it takes to manifest what it is we desire. Now, the Ark of the Covenant, some believe, was like a electrical box. And if you know anything about electrical boxes, if you go around them, you will see a sign that says, warning, do not touch. And so you have to learn how to work with electricity, not against electricity. You have to learn how to work with source, with God, with divine intelligence, not against it, because you cannot violate it. When you attempt to violate it, or when you work out of ignorance, you get violated. Now, the beautiful thing in there, you can find gratitude. I find gratitude this morning in this story because I find that if I understand this story, I can avoid some of the shock value of life. Now, so David was upset because somebody he cared about was killed trying to do something that was right. See, we can desire to do something right and go about it the wrong way. First of all, if you read that story, they were bringing it in a wrong way. They were bringing it in on a new cart. It's not saying that they need to get an old cart, but they got to understand the original Ark of the Covenant was never brought in with oxen. It was brought in on the shoulders of men. Now, what's on the shoulder of every man? It's the head. It's your head represents understanding. Your head represents an overstanding. Your head represents that you are aware of what you're doing. And it's not necessarily the physicalness of the men that was carrying it, but they had an understanding of what they were moving. So they didn't put it on an ark. And so what I'm saying to you, the thing that you want someone else to do, the new practices and principles that you're taking on in order to bring the power of God into your life may not be the way it's been designed for it to be. So you, like David, he went and he searched and he found the way to move the power of God is to not use oxen, not to use an alternative method, not to put it even on a new cart, because as the cart began to rock, roll, and lean, they felt that, or Uzzah felt that he needed to help out God or source so it wouldn't topple over. Now, this is something we all must understand. There's a way that appears to each of us as the way to do it. And oftentimes that's the wrong way, because we have not searched the matter out. So David, as a result of someone losing their life, went back to the drawing board to find out, how do I move the power of God? And so I'm saying that one of the things that all of us need to do, and I'm talking about trust, because we need to learn to trust God and not lean to our own understanding. David leaned into his own understanding of how to get the ark to the city of David. He thought he could do it by just putting it on a new cart. He thought he could do it by putting it on a new cart and going out in front of it in praise. So he had a little right and a little wrong. The word says a little leavens the entire lump. Now, his praise was right, but the way he was going about it was wrong. And I see that in Christianity all the time. I see it in the church all the time. People go to church and get their praise on. Their praise, they have highest praise, but their lives does not represent trusting in God. Uzzah did not trust that God could take care of itself. Many times when you don't trust someone, you take matters in your own hand. I'm a good example of that. Not that I didn't trust, but I leaned into my own understanding. I told you recently I took on a job, been right at 6 weeks. I've been working from 9 at night to 3 in the morning. It appeared to be the good thing to do. Not that I didn't trust God, but I leaned into my own understanding. I leaned into my own ways. When I got that invoice from my daughter, I said that I have to get a job. Whereas instead of reacting to the invoice, I should have responded with gratitude that God has always provided for me. And so I have one more thing that it must provide for me, and just get quiet, be still, and know that I am God and that I will manifest it. But what I did is I slipped into my old self, my old creative self. I always been able to get jobs. I've always been able to create wealth in and of myself, but that don't last, and that takes a lot of my own energy. So I have found myself learning a valuable lesson that when life happens, you don't react to it, you respond to it. You don't just automatically react to what happens. When I got the invoice, I should just put it on my table and just begin to meditate on what it is I desire, and let source tell me how to go about doing it. So I do have gratitude right now in the fact that I was able to get that job. I have gratitude that where I'm positioned inside of the company. And I also have gratitude that I've learned a lesson that at 61, I can't work the same way I worked at 31, but I'm going to make it happen. I'm making it happen. So let me give you a couple of scriptures. Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5-6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding." Too many individuals like you and I, we lean into our own understanding instead of being steeped in the overstanding. Come on now, you got to overstand things and not understand things. You have to look at things from another vantage point instead of underneath or inside or in the midst. You can't see the forest for the trees. You got to get up above them to really see it. So here I see in this scripture, trust in the Lord with all your heart, not just part of it. And see, most of us don't trust. When you trust in the Lord with all your heart, the heart is the most powerful, energetic source inside of us. The heart is more powerful than the brain as far as magnetism and the energy field that it emits. The heart, it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not into your understanding. And he says, in all your ways, submit to it, and it will make your paths straight. If we submit to the universal principles and practices, if we submit to the law of circulation, if we submit to the law of attraction, if we submit to the law, the law of recapitulation, give and it should be given to you, or the law of karma, if we understand them and work with them, it will make our paths straight. So that's a good scripture for somebody today. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Now, many of us are not trusting with it all. We give a partial trust, and then you're going to get a partial experience. And the other part of that experience oftentimes will be negative. Now, here's my favorite scripture that I want to leave you with tonight, or this afternoon, this morning, whatever time it is that you're tuned in. Psalms 119, verse 11. It reads like this: "Thy word have I hid in my heart, that I may not sin against you." Psalms 119. That's David put it in his journal. Because David is saying, I have hid thy word, thy principles, thy precepts in my heart, that I will not sin, or I will not miss the mark. I imagine that scene, Uzziah electrocuted right in front of him, left an indelible, left a mark on him. And so Some things happen in our lives that leaves marks on us. And you should be grateful for those things because they are reminder points, they're touch points to remind you of missteps. And it's in the missteps that we are able to come up to a greater understanding. So he says, thy word have I hidden in my heart that I may not sin against you, that I don't miss the mark. And if I hid the word in my heart, I go back to Proverbs 3 and 5, and it says, trust in the Lord with all my heart. And see, the more you trust in God or trust in source, the greater the gratitude will be. Because when you can trust in someone, you can be grateful that their ability. So I trust in individuals based on their ability. So I trust in source based on its ability. Now, if I'm in source and source in me, the word says I can do all things through Christ, or this level of consciousness. So I trust myself, and I am grateful. I have gratitude for who I am, whose I am, and the abilities I have. And so this morning's message, I want you to know this. Your trust level dictates your awareness or your consciousness of gratitude. And we should have gratitude every day, because gratitude is about counting your blessings. No matter what state you're in right now, no matter what's going on, I'm not saying for you to be complacent with and to be satisfied, but whatever state you're in, here you want to be content. I am where I am today. What lesson is it that I am to be learning inside of this day? I don't have to worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Tomorrow will have its own set of learning challenges. Be present to right here, right now. So today, I want you to count your blessings. I want you to see the more you count the blessings, when you can look back over your life and see what God has been able to do through you, with you, for you, however you want to put it, it gives you a stronger sense of, I can trust God. You've weathered a lot of storms in your life already. You've been through breakups, you've been through makeups, you've been through losses, you've been through gains, you've been through all the seasons of life, at least one go round. And through those seasons, you should have learned one thing, that God will be with, that God is with you, that source will protect you, that if you lean into source and not lean into your head, lean into your heart, intuitively, you'll get direction, you'll get clarity, you'll get an answer, you'll get a witty idea, and you'll find that your days will be filled with gratitude. So change your attitude this morning regarding that thing that has gone wrong, that thing that didn't end up the way you wanted it to end up. You may have lost something, someone very significant to you. You grieve that thing, but you get through that thing and you understand that the word says your latter days shall be better than your former days. So if what has gone was good, what is coming is even gooder or better. So I want to encourage each of you this morning to count your blessings. I want you to learn the way it should be done, not the way you're doing it. The things that you are looking to accomplish in life, if they're God ordained, must be followed, must be adhered to in a way that aligns with the universal principles and practices. The word tells us in Jeremiah 29, 11, 12, it tells us that I know the plans I have for you, to prosper you, to give you success, to get you to your expected end. So if it knows the plans, then you need to go to the manufacturer and find out the plan. Hope you got something out of that this morning. Again, I want you to know this morning that God desires to see you have great success in life. And that I want you to know that gratitude is a spiritual practice that you should take on. I want you to understand that your trust in God, your trust in source evokes a consciousness. If you find a person who has low gratitude level, they have a low trust level in God. I want you to understand that the story of Obadiah, take some time, read 2 Samuel chapter 6, 2 Samuel chapter 7. I want you this week to take some time and assess your life for where your trust lies. Are you trusting in the fact that you need a husband? Are you trusting in the fact that you need a wife? Are you trusting in the fact that you need a job? Are you trusting in something other than where your trust should be? Again, trust is something that is critical to gratitude. Trust is a firm belief in the reliability, the truth, the ability, or strength of someone or something. And in this case, that someone or that something is source that resides in you. Awesome. Great. So as we prepare ourselves to move into the backside of this hour, I wanted to, before I go in and take a couple of questions and have a little dialogue, I want to thank those of you who have joined me this morning. Again, I'm Asar, also known as Greg Stanton, the facilitator of Oasis Spiritual Center for Divine Living. We are a virtual ministry with boots on ground in certain areas of the country. Right now, I do have a presence in Chicago, and we will be unveiling the St. Louis start soon. So if you're in the St. Louis area, the East St. Louis, the greater St. Louis area, why don't you consider finding out what we're doing and become part of that. I look forward to really moving in a greater way this upcoming year in the city of Chicago, because that's my base. That's where I had it all started. So this morning, if this ministry has been a blessing to you, you can be a blessing to it. The word says give and it shall be given. You can't expect to get if you never give. And so if this message has been a blessing to you, consider being a blessing to not only the messenger, but the ministry. If you bless the ministry, you bless the messenger, you bless the messenger, you bless the ministry. You can go to oasisspiritualcenter.com, www.oasisspiritualcenter.com. Go over to the giving tab and you can find the platform that fits your what works best for you. You can give by PayPal, you can give by Cash App, you can give by way of text to give, or if you are a member of or committed to being part of this ministry, you can even join up to give via our tithing app. So that's another conversation. I know a lot of times people don't talk about tithing today because the way it was exploited in days gone by, but don't let the exploitation of the past that was done incorrectly get in the way. Many of you are looking to see a more significant flow into your life for financial resources, but you have started a new way, a new cart. But the way it is giving, it says, give and it shall be given to you. Press down, shaking together, shall source, open up the windows of heaven, pour you out a blessing that you don't have room enough to receive. Receive means to contain it. And then that means that you are able to operate in life as a conduit of blessing. You cannot bless if you just have less. You can't bless if you just have enough. God has not called us to live in the land of just enough. We have been called to live in the land of more than enough. So you want to increase your flow. You want to increase the strength of your flow. Begin to give with the same measure that you give, the same measure it'll be meted to you. Give little, get back little. Give sparingly, get sparingly. Give not in a consistent way. You don't get in a consistent way. Get the pump, you get the pump primed and keep priming the pump. So I thank those of you who have been supporting the ministry financially at whatever level you've been supporting it. No, I'm not going to do a alternate way of giving. I'm going to say to you, I'm not going to do that. You can give what you want. No, you listen to the Spirit and let the Spirit tell you what